a stand like this here. Hello and welcome to the SubUrbanisata Podcast with me, Paul Maginn from the University of Western Australia. In late January of the year, the adult entertainment industry makes its annual pilgrimage to the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas for the AVN Adult Entertainment Expo and Award Show. This temporary migration of the porn industry from US cities such as Los Angeles, San Francisco, Miami and Charlotte, and from around the world, offers porn fans and curious tourists the chance to meet and get up close and personal with porn performers. The AVN Expo is also an opportunity for members of the porn community to catch up with one another, to showcase and discuss the latest technological market and regulatory developments, and celebrate the achievements of performers, producers, directors and writers at the award show, the so-called Porn Oscars. I was at the AVN Expo to take part in a panel on a research project looking at porn consumption and the socio-sexual attitudes of fans who attend the AVN Expo. I took the opportunity to interview a number of porn performers for a special series as part of the SubUrbanisata Podcast. The CarPoolXXX series takes a look at porn performers as a migrant community and explores the migration and resettlement experiences of performers who have moved to Los Angeles or Las Vegas from elsewhere in the United States. Interviews were conducted with Memphis, Ella Darling, Charlotte Cross, Alana Cruz, and a young married couple, Lindsay Love and Michael Scott, who produced amateur porn. In this episode of CarPoolXXX, I chat with Kiki Daire, who is from Memphis, Tennessee, and started in the adult industry in 1998. So sit back, relax, and come join me for a journey on CarPoolXXX. Welcome to Las Vegas for CarPoolXXX podcast as part of the SubUrbanisata Podcast. I'm here on the top of the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino with Kiki Daire.
Hi!
And Kiki's an adult performer who lives here in Las Vegas. And for CarPoolXXX, as you might know, is I'm looking at porn performers, adult entertainers as a migrant community. So, Kiki,
Yes?
I'm here to find out about your migration story. Where are you from? How did you end up in Vegas? How did you end up in the industry? But before we get into all of that, can you tell us something about you just as a person?
As a person, I've been doing adult movies since 1998, even though I took around a 7-year break. And as far as a person, I'm pretty normal. I mean, you know, movies, music, my dog, food, wine, lots of wine, boys, girls, I mean, you name it.
And can you tell me where you're from originally? So which state, which city?
I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee.
So from the south?
From the south, yes.
Okay. So, and how did you end up in Vegas? And when did you move here and why did you move here?
Well, I've been here since October of last year. I had broken my foot in a sober tripping accident. God, I hate admitting that. It's so embarrassing. But anyway, so I moved here to watch a friend's house from Los Angeles, and that's how I wound up in Vegas.
Yeah. So you were in LA first working in the industry?
Yes.
So can you kind of tell me a bit about how you kind of ended up moving to LA? Did you move to LA in order to be in the industry?
I did.
Or did you?
I did. When I got into the industry from stripping, I got a hold of an agent in LA, and their exact words to me were, "There's nothing but money for you here." So on a plane to LA I went.
Okay. And when did you move to LA then?
I've lived in LA a couple of different times. I mean, probably the first time I moved out would have been around 2000.
Okay. And that time you were moving to be in the industry as well?
That time I was specifically coming out for the industry. And every time I've come back really has been specifically for the industry.
So one of the things I'm interested in as a geographer and as part of kind of what geographers do in looking at kind of migrant groups, different migrant groups, and you'll know this from being an American and being US, different migrant groups tend to kind of congregate or cluster in certain neighborhoods. You might talk about the Italian neighborhood or the Irish neighborhood. Is there such thing as a porno bar? Is there a neighborhood
Well, it
where
used to be
porn performers kind of
It used to be the
concentrate?
San Fernando Valley. I don't really know that it's so much that case anymore. I mean, in LA, for instance, you've got performers in Hollywood, San Fernando Valley, in Burbank, in West LA, Venice, downtown LA. I mean, there's a lot of different neighborhoods where you find performers now. I mean, here in Vegas, for instance, you find them in, say, Henderson, Summerlin, Pahrump.
Just thinking about LA then, so the valley, I mean, the world will know that the San Fernando Valley, or the San Fernando Valley, as some people call it, is kind of the epicenter of the industry. When you get in the industry, is that where you moved to when you first came to LA?
When I first came to LA, I stayed in North Hollywood. Yeah.
And did you know other performers there, or did you know other friends there who were outside the industry? I mean, why did you decide to move to North Hollywood?
Well, my agent at the time lived in North Hollywood, and as I got to know other people, I mean, I knew other people in North Hollywood. I knew people in Silver Lake. I knew people in Chatsworth, all over the valley. Back in those days, it was kind of rare for somebody to live in Hollywood or Silver Lake compared to the valley.
So most people lived in the valley at that time?
Yes, that's true.
Can you give us paint a bit of a picture of what the valley was like back then in terms of, so I know the industry's there, so the producers, the studios and stuff, but in terms of porn performers as kind of just residents and kind of living around, I mean...
Well, I mean, LA is one of those places where I can walk into a grocery store and maybe run into one person, two people. I mean, it's not uncommon for that to happen.
Right.
And actually, it doesn't matter whether it's Hollywood or the Valley now. I've had it happen to me in both areas. Same thing with Burbank, actually. So, I mean, LA is a really big town, but it's very, very tiny, very fast.
It's small in the sense that porn performers move around in the same spaces, same networks. It's a pretty tight community, so...
To some degree, yes, even though not as much as it used to be. I mean, It used to be, if I walked into certain, bars or restaurants, chances were I was going to run into people that I knew.
Right.
Now it's more of a 50-50.
Okay.
Most of the people that I run into now are people that have been going to the same places for, 20 years. And
yes, so it's part of their they're part of the neighborhood. And,
right.
So they're going to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing about, I suppose, other migrant groups is, certain places become important for them. That could be, so for certain migrant groups who've got religious backgrounds, the church, the mosque, the synagogue, whatever it might be important. Other important spaces for porn communities to kind of hang out in, or outside of like the porn industry per se. So
there have been over the years, but I mean, some of those places have closed down. Some of them aren't there anymore just because of buildings moving in or corporations buying buildings. And in other cases, where I might go is different than where somebody who's 21 might go.
Right, yeah, okay. But thinking back to I suppose when you first got here, or first got into LA, when you were younger and stuff, would, those 21-year-olds of today would basically be doing what you did back then, essentially? Or
I mean, I would say that it's cyclical and it tends to kind of repeat itself over and over, even though we've had places closed down and so on and so forth. And
can you give me an example of some of those places that would, whether they're still here or if they're gone, that were kind of iconic?
Well, the Rainbow is iconic for rock and roll. It's also iconic for porn stars. The Sardo's was iconic for porn stars until it closed down because Seymour's a little angry old man.
Sardo's is a restaurant. Was that a restaurant or a bar?
It was a karaoke bar and restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah.
The home of porn star karaoke.
Yeah, the original.
Yes.
I have the new one. But God, where else? The Dragonfly was a long-time favorite. The Lamplighter.
So that's in the epicenter of the valley.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that surrounds porn and sex work in general is kind of the stigma that surrounds porn, sex work, prostitution. So being a performer and thinking about your kind of your time in LA, in particular when you were when you first moved, did performers kind of experience discrimination in getting access to housing? So if a landlord knew that you were a performer, for example, or did you have to hide that?
I never really dealt with that. I mean, I've heard horror stories from other girls, but I mean, I never had that issue myself.
Okay, so but it has happened.
Of course. I mean, listen, in American society, if you are in a marginalized group or a stigmatized group, you're going to deal with problems. That's just the way it is.
You lived in North Hollywood. Did you have any other moves? Did you kind of move around to different suburbs?
I've lived in North Hollywood. I've lived in Sherman Oaks. I've lived in Woodland Hills. I've lived in Reseda. I've lived in Venice. I've lived in downtown LA.
So,
I mean, all over the place in Los Angeles.
Yeah, so the story, the migrant story, the stereotypical migrant story is people come into this new city, new country, they kind of start at the bottom in some ways, and then you move up. You move up because you get better educated, you get a job, you move house, you get a bigger house in a better suburb. Was that your story in those moves that you've just outlined, or?
Well, I mean, the moves have been for various reasons, whether it was because of roommates where the values just didn't mesh anymore, or boyfriends, or crazy neighbors. I mean, a variety of reasons.
On the roommates, was that other porn performers, or have your roommates always been people in porn, or has it been a mixture of porn and non-porn?
No. I wouldn't say that really and truly my roommate issues have been solely porn related. I mean, LA is kind of the land of everybody's got horrendous roommate stories, because it's just so difficult to find people that you mesh with and can stand living with.
Yeah, but just thinking kind of broadly about the industry and performers in general, I mean, is it a fairly common thing for performers to be roomies with one another?
I'd say it's fairly common. I wouldn't say that it's always a good thing, but I would say it's fairly common.
Yeah. And does that help in terms of, I suppose, particularly if you're a newcomer to the industry?
Well, if you're a newcomer, it can be extremely beneficial because you've got somebody that can introduce you to everyone you need to know.
Right.
Provided they know everyone.
Yeah. Somebody who's established in the industry, but got a little bit of runs on the boards.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Yeah. Really?
That was a Hearst, by the way, beeping its horn. So, announcing the arrival of a body. So, so the move to Vegas then?
Yes.
Because there's been a lot of talk in the press in particular around the regulation of porn in Los Angeles has kind of been the stimulus for the industry to move, particularly here in Vegas. Is that why you moved, or why did you move?
No, I
was
moved.
Was it for a job? More jobs were coming down?
No, I moved because I broke my foot, and I was having some issues in LA because my roommate went kind of fucking batshit, and it was just easier to come here where I know somebody that has a house that they need to have watched, so that's what I do.
Okay. And is the plan to stay here, or, I mean, presumably you're working here as well?
Yeah.
And living, and there's work. There's lots of work here.
Well, I mean, I don't know about porn yet. I haven't done a lot of porn work here, but I mean, I do have other work here.
I suppose it's like the classic actor story. You speak to somebody who wants to break into Hollywood, and they're a waiter or a waitress, or they're doing some other kind of job, which is their real job as they're trying to break in.
Yeah.
Did you have those when you got into porn initially? Were you kind of jobbing at different things?
When I got into porn initially, this could be your full-time job.
Right.
Not so much anymore.
Okay. So there's been a big restructuring.
There's been a huge restructuring.
Okay. And how can you give a bit of an idea of kind of what that restructure is like? What's happening?
Simply put, between browsers and the pirates at home, nobody pays for anything anymore. So how can companies keep making product that they're spending good money on if they're not recouping?
I mean, one of the things in terms of how porn itself is diversified, so camming has become a big kind of aspect of sex work and, you know, and porn. And you see a lot of performers now who would have been contract people in the past. They're also doing camming stuff now as well. So there's a really interesting diversification in the industry, so it's on an independent level.
There is. I mean, on one hand, at this day and age, you can do everything yourself, make all the money, and you can really grow your own little independent empire. On the flip side of that, you don't have the promotion of a big company behind you, you don't have their advertising dollars, you don't have their PR, and it's exhausting to wear every hat. So
thanks everyone, that's the end of this episode of CarPoolXXX here at the Hard Rock Hotel Casino overlooking Vegas, and a big thanks to Kiki Daire.
Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to check out the next